Hello. Okay, we're live for the first Merriment Maker Merriment Mondays live. Gosh, I'm so used to saying Merriment Makers after I say merriment. All right. Oh goodness. I hear myself twice. All right. So, welcome. I apologize in advance for any little kinks that come up. Oh, okay. I can see the chat now here in my streaming software. Hi, April. Welcome. All right. So let's start off with our magical merriment moments. I want to know what you have experienced in the past 7 days. So I talk about magical merriment moments as if they are like gratitude moments, like something really fun that happened to you, something that you're grateful for, something that felt maybe like it came out of nowhere, something that was really fun, something that was playful, something that was exciting. What was it that for you that felt really cool? So I'll tell you for me that it was these three things. So it was meeting this dog, Summit, and I gave her an award. She was a really fun dog. And it was seeing Brett Goldstein, who is Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. If you've never seen that show, I recommend it. It's a very good, positive show. And turns out he's a stand-up comedian, and I got to go see him do stand-up live, which was also extremely positive. And he does not act like Roy Kent on his in real life and in any way, or his stand-up. So if you have any positive magical merriment moments that you want to share, please share them in the chat, and I will shout you out and we can talk about them. And the third one of my magical merriment moments was realizing just how much my shopping cart looked like me while I was at the thrift store. And you can even see that I'm wearing that cardigan right now. Okay. April's saying that she took home wait, let me see. It's not a horse pulled carriage, drove her around downtown on Saturday. That is cool as hell. I love that. I can't remember the last time I was in a horse pulled carriage. That is absolutely something we should all be looking to do. Okay, now let's talk about sharing good news. Okay, so let's think about this aspect of looking for helpers and where we have seen good news happen in the world. So, have you seen anything positive happen outside? Have you seen any kindness exist out in your world? Have you been the good news that you want to see? So as merriment makers, we are always striving to be the good news that we want to see happen, and that can't really happen if we're not, like, one, looking for it, but also, noticing it and also being it. So I'm going to share something from my life, and then I also want to know what is happening for you. So please share in the chat what was happening for you in this past week. So my mom has a brother that we discovered accidentally about 20 years ago, and it was through his like genealogy report, and it was like a literal long lost brother. And as soon as we found them, we flew to Alaska where he lived, and we got to meet him and his wife, Bill and Kay, and he is a priest or a pastor, or I don't know the difference. And I guess pastor, I think that's the one where it's like not Catholic. And he is also a somebody who runs a cemetery, and he always said we can marry him and we can bury him, and I thought that was very fun. And he was very kind, and he took us in for like a whole week and put us up, and we got to experience Alaska. And this week for Operation Merriment, we learned about this really interesting fictional character in Alaska, and I couldn't find as much information on it as I wanted to. So I called him, and even though I hadn't spoken to him in a really long time, he called me back immediately. He talked to me and we had this really beautiful phone conversation for a while. And I also got to learn a little bit more about my Aunt Kay, who has some dementia, and my Uncle Bill takes her every week to get her pedicure and does all these really nice things for her that she can't really do for herself anymore. And I just thought how, you know, it's really wonderful when we don't give up on someone. And he's taking his marriage vows till death do us part, in sickness and in health, like so deeply, beautifully, seriously. And I think that that's just absolutely gorgeous. And I think that that is wonderful, good news. And also to see her still getting pampered is absolutely wonderful. So that's my good news. If you have any good news, please share it in the chat. And in addition to good news, I also have the This Just In section here, which is India has just invented this mechanical spoon that automatically stabilizes itself to help people with Parkinson's eat, people who have tremors. And I think this is really cool. So again, Merriment Makers and Merriment Making is all about making, spreading, sharing good news. And in this section every week, I'm going to share one news story where we're like looking at good news. So here is the spoon that you can see. It automatically stabilizes itself. And this child was inspired by his uncle who had Parkinson's, and he just couldn't watch him try to eat without shaking. So I thought that was really cool. And if you're into good news, you can also sign up, because I don't know if you know this, but I send good news texts every weekday as a service, and you could go to uncustomary.org/texts and you can sign up for getting a good news texts every single day, or it's also a part of the Merriment Makers membership service. Okay, so what are we going to do today? So today we are going to go over all of these things. We are going to go over this week's topic, and then while we're doing that, I can answer any questions that you have. We can do Q&A the whole entire time, and I also have some stuff prepared for you that I want to talk to you about. And then we're going to do a giveaway today to celebrate the inaugural, I can never say that word correctly, episode of the Merriment Mondays live. And I have a homework for you. I have a deck pull from my card deck, and that's pretty much what we're going to do today. And so if you're feeling generous, if you're feeling kind, if you want to spread some good news, please take this time now to hit the subscribe button. You can also like and share this video, because as many people deserve to be happy as possible. And also there's a section now where you can tip me. So if you scroll down into the description of the video, the caption, there's a little link and you can tip me, and hopefully it'll pop up on the screen and do a little thing. So every time that you subscribe or like or tip me, there should be like a little like automation thing. But again, we are going through the logistics of this for our first live, so hopefully there are no issues, but we're all just like working this out together right now. So okay, with the giveaway, I want to let you know that this is the package that I am sending out. This is this beautiful purple box. You get the box too, and we have this here. Let me show you here. We've got this wonderful purple box, and inside of it we have a glitter wand. We've got holographic pencils. I've got smiley socks, a ton of stickers that are just flying out all over the place. These fun pins. There goes the microphone. Sorry if I just busted your ears out. That was bound to happen, right? Oh boy. Okay. I hope that's better. An avocado purse. 1,000 sticker book. Much more stickers. Bookmark. Wreck This journal. A self-care prescription. Some vintage comics. A thing you can put in your hair. Some Tutti Frutti confetti. They're like really thick and fun. Washi tape, a keychain, really cool gem pen. And all of this is valued at $130, and that's before I include shipping for you. So basically, let me put this all back in the box. And sit down without blowing your ears back out on this microphone. Oh, thank you guys. I'm glad you like the setup. Yeah, I'm wanting to make it look like my brain exploded. And here's the giveaway information. So this is everything that you're getting in the package. It's $130 for the value of it. And you can, in order to enter the giveaway, all you need to do, oh, I always find the coolest things. I love sending care packages. I love the mail. I love giving gifts. It's my love language. So all you need to do to enter is to take a screenshot sometime during this video or the replay. If you're watching later, that's okay. And just take a video or a little screenshot of the video and post it on social media, tag me, and write something. So you can write like what your favorite part of the video was, what your key takeaway of the video was. And I recommend that you do it now so you don't forget, so I can just pose. And if your profile is set to private, then you do need to like DM me a screenshot of your thing. Because if your profile is set to private and you tag someone, no one can see that. So I'll pose one more time. And yes, you can join if you are international. That doesn't disqualify you. So again, it's worth $130, and you just have to, between now and November 25th at 11:59 Eastern time, Baltimore, New York time, then you can enter, and I'll announce the winner on next Monday's live. So you'll have to come back to see if you won. Okay. All right. So let's get into today's topic. So what we're talking about today is the happiness game. All right. So if you have any questions, if you are confused, if you are feeling bad, if you are struggling with something, please share and let us know, and just feel free to use this space as your time to get advice, get coaching, and utilize me as your personal person for happiness and merriment making. So I want to talk about what I have learned so far with the happiness game, and maybe that will inspire some questions first. So I've recently realized that it seems like sometimes we really have to become not that we have to, but if you have become the least happy version of yourself, it's very possible that that is a catalyst for you to becoming the most happy version of yourself. And I don't think that it's a requirement. It's kind of like this feeling of rock bottom, right? If you hit rock bottom, the only place to go is up. And I think that we really get comfortable at rock bottom sometimes. I think that because of our human nature, we acclimate and adapt so quickly as humans. It's actually deeply fascinating and marvelous how fast we are able to adapt as a person, as a human being, to any circumstance. And we will not notice how fast we have adapted to something. It's incredible. For example, when I was living in my old house, I recently moved in the past 2 months. And before I moved, I kept thinking that I was in this space where maybe we had mold or something. And I was like, I don't know, like, wouldn't we be really, really sick if we had mold? Like, I don't know. I was definitely feeling lethargic, but I was attributing that to maybe the fact that I have, diagnoses of mental illness or something, right? Like, I was like, maybe this is just who I am, right? And then I went to Los Angeles for a week, and I came back, and I when I walked in the door, I felt faint. And for the first week that I was back, I had to go outside every half hour to get like a breath of fresh air because I realized all of a sudden that I wasn't able to breathe properly. And over time, I was able to kind of like adapt back into the environment of my home because, again, we're creatures of adaptation. However, that wasn't a normal space to be in. The house was not okay. There was, in fact, something wrong with the air, right? But we're able to figure out like a way to process even the air particles, right? And this is true of anything. If we can adapt to the air that we're breathing and figure out a way to do that, it doesn't mean that it's not going to cause sickness over time. It's not going to decrease the longevity of our lives, but we will find a way to deal with it, right? We'll find a way to deal with anything. The air we breathe, a lack of a home, we can find a way to deal. Does that mean that it's good, that it's better, that it's an enjoyable situation, that we're happy? No, probably not, in fact. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how can we look at the daily circumstances of our life, the daily interactions, the daily moments, and realize like just because we have adapted to this doesn't mean that this is normal. Doesn't mean that this is what is making me happy. And it's really, really, really hard to do that when we haven't zoomed out and when we haven't even noticed that this is normal. It takes a lot of trust and humility to even understand that there's a problem. Especially when this is all that we've known. It's like telling somebody with mania that that's not a good thing to experience. You tell me when I have mania that like that's not okay. I'm like, what are you talking about? I feel amazing. I feel amazing. Why would I want to come down? The alternative is what? Neutrality or depression? Doesn't sound good to me. Doesn't sound good to me. So what I'm saying is if you try to tell somebody that is experiencing something that feels regular to them, that there's another option, they're like, why would I change this? But when you ask yourself, do I feel happy? You might say yes, because you might not actually know what happy means for you. How many of us have actually defined happiness for ourselves? Because it's different. The happiness game for a lot of people looks like the game of life. Do you remember the game of life? That board game? It was like to get a little car, to put your little stick figures in, your gender assigned at birth, and then you get a little husband or a wife, the opposite of your gender. Then you move on, you get kids to fill up the back seats, you get a house, you get a job, you get a salary, you get a mortgage, you get whatever it is. There were no real surprises. There were all of these milestones you had to hit. And even those options were maxed out, right? Like there were all of these, there were only X amount of careers. There was a cap on salary of $100,000. We can dream bigger than that. I'm here to tell you that your happiness goals, your happiness dreams are not big enough. And that the depth, like the width of your happiness goals are here, and they can go so far out beyond the screen that I cannot reach. And the depth of the enjoyment that you can experience on a day-to-day basis, on a moment-to-moment in this second, you have experienced a puddle, and what's available to you is an ocean. And you won't know that until you've experienced more. It's like someone who has experienced childbirth, right? They thought that they had a 10 of pain, and then they experienced childbirth and were like, oh, nope, whatever I had as a 10 of pain wasn't that until I did that. right? Or whatever your new 10 of pain is, you're always like, well, that I thought was a 10 of pain, and now this is my new 10 of pain. You don't know until you know. And I'm telling you that you don't know yet. And that's for everyone, including myself. We can all move more. We can all move bigger. We can all move deeper. And that's not to say that you are not enough or that your goals are not in. It's not to say that it's not enough. It's to say that maybe it's not enough. Maybe the only thing that we are not doing enough of is joy. It's not that our self-worth, it's not that we're not enough. It's that our happiness isn't enough. That's maybe the only thing that we should be searching for more. I've been on this health journey all of this year, and I'm discovering how much happier and more motivated I've become as I've started to move my body much more. Yeah, me too, actually. Actually, yeah. So here's an interesting thing. I don't know if you guys have heard of blue zones, but there's this guy, Dan Butner, who I can't not laugh at his name every single time because I'm 12. But I watched this documentary from him, and he is really fascinated by concentrated groups of centenarians, which are people who live to be about 100 or more. And there's these little pockets of places around the globe where people have started to live that long. And it's unique because like these places, like there's this one place in Japan, there's this one place in Italy, there's this one, there's these different cities and locations, but it's not the whole area. It's just this one little tiny pocket. And the city next door, it's not like that. They're not living that long. So he went around and he took these demographics, he found out this information, and then he was like, okay, well, why? What are you guys doing that's making you live that long? It's like when somebody lives to be 100 years old and they ask you, like, what are you doing? And then it's just like some random person that's like, eat a pine cone. And you're like, that's not it. So he's actually asking these communities of people, what are you guys doing that's making your longevity of your life? And I also want to say that these people who are living to be 100 are not looking or behaving or they have vitality. They have massive they look better than my dad does, and they're like 30 years older. There's a guy that's like over 100. He's a cowboy. He's riding on a horse. He's like, they're all doing squats. They're doing splits. Like, I mean, these people are in better shape than I am, and they're 70 years older than I am. So this guy is going around and he's interviewing these people, and every community does it a little bit different. They do it in their way, but there's a lot of key things that keep them happy and healthy and living long in a vital way. And one of those things is movement. And it's not exercise. Nobody in these communities across the world, Costa Rica, Japan, Greece, Italy, any of these little tiny communities, are Singapore, nobody's like going to the gym. Everybody's just moving all day long. They're like gardening, they're walking, the way that their towns are set up, there's hills or whatever. They're just like constantly getting caloric burn because they do stuff. They do handmade chores. And it's so interesting. Yeah, blue zones are super interesting. Your husband's grandpa is 102 and still very active. That's incredible. And people always make that joke of like, well, I don't want to live to 90. It looks miserable. It's like, yeah, maybe here in America, it looks miserable because of our healthcare system, because we are so retroactive with providing, systems to solutions where it's just like, here's a pill. But what if we just treated lifestyle and the game of happiness as if the whole point is to nurture yourself and enjoyment every single day? I want to live to be 100 if every day was a beautiful, blissful event. And one of these, basically the cornerstones of blue zones are social elements, where you have a cornerstone of people who you care about and you hang out with every day. And you never do work instead of hanging out with people and enjoying your life. There's a nutritional element with everybody. Everybody seems to be eating black beans, purple sweet potatoes, yams and squash, nuts, legumes, and sometimes corn. And the other thing is the exercise, the consistent movement, and then a positive attitude. Yes, we need to look for sparkly linings. Absolutely. So, one of the things is that the positive attitude, there's one of these things where there's a lot of language in other cultures for the element of passion and where we get our motivation from. And we have modules for all of these things in the Merriment Makers. There's a passion module, there's a self-care module, there's a gratitude module, there's a module for really all of these things that we're discussing. And I love diving deeper into these things and getting a deeper glance into the ocean versus the puddle, of which is kind of what we're doing now, right? Or just kind of like glossing over each one. And that's great and that's good. And hopefully that is inspiring. But if you want more in-depth stuff, we can do like a whole deep dive in the Merriment Makers membership, and you can find the link below, or uncustomary.org/merriment-makers, or just on my website, which you can see on this little cute little ticker right here, marquee. So anyway, I just want to let you know that if you want to feel this joy, this the passion is what I was saying, the ikagi, I believe, is in Japanese, this feeling of like deep obsession with life, or deep obsession with one aspect of life, your specific passion. And I love that. And there's another thing in Spanish in Costa Rica that they were talking about, like vida something, la vida loca, something like that. That's Ricky Martin. But it's basically just like, why do you give a shit about waking up in the morning? And I want to know, like, and once we have language for something, we can actually see it. There's scientific evidence that if we don't have language for a color, we cannot see it. If there's a whole spectrum of stuff, like people couldn't see the color blue until they had language for it. It's super true. People thought blue was green. People weren't using the word blue in text for a very long time in historical documents. They were just calling the water green. And they had tons of words for the different spectrums of green. And then somebody was like, oh, actually, I think it's this. It's a different thing. It's blue. And then once they started saying it was blue, we could see it. And it's the same thing. I did it myself. There's a test that you can do, because there's certain cultures that have all these different words for like yellows and greens, and we don't really. And I was like, okay, well, let me see. I can definitely pick out different greens, and I couldn't. And it's this really interesting thing. But the whole point is that if you can't even have language for something, you physically will not be able to see it. If that's happening with a color, imagine what that's doing for your joy. Imagine what's happening if you can't even believe, let alone say, that you can have a happy life. Do you think it's going to happen? So much of your life is created by your thoughts. I know that sounds flighty and theoretical and wooey and whatever you want to call it, but it's so real. It's deeply, deeply, deeply real. It's psychologically proven. It's scientifically backed. And in the beginning, I was kind of talking about how I think when we hit rock bottom, we don't really realize how we are there. And we kind of get interested in being there. It's kind of how depression can feel really cozy. And I know for me, I have also played the victim game quite a bit. And I know that we don't like to admit that we're playing a victim. I know that we don't like to do that. I know that it's very triggering. It's very defensive, creating an argument in that way. Our brain immediately wants to come up and say, it's not my fault. I wouldn't even do that. And that's why I'm going to tell you a story about how I did that, because I think if I can show you a way that I did it, then it might be easier for you to say that it's okay if you've done it too, or at least see a way that it's happening. So when I moved out of my house, the day that I moved, I didn't want to get out of the shower. I woke up and I knew exactly how big this house was going to be for me. I don't know if you've seen how different just my social media has been since I've moved, how much art I've been creating, how I'm showing up here now. But I could tell that this move was going to be a different thing for me, that this house was going to be different, that leaving specifically that old house was going to be important for me. And the fact that I knew that meant that I already knew that. There was a lot of pain at that old house. There was multiple memories and significant events of trauma. One of the last relationships I was holding on to that felt abusive was my landlord. And I dealt with that fear every single day. And there was a part of me that liked it. And this is a whole other topic, but when you grow up in a chaotic household or an abusive household or whatever, any kind of not okay household, really, your brain starts to believe that that's the norm, right? We're talking about that adaptation. We're talking about that. What is it that is regular? And when there's not that chaos or abuse or negligence even, your brain is like, this isn't normal. Where's our norm? If there's only ease and peace, you're not in your regular space, right? So I had done a pretty good job of finding partners and relationships and dynamics and attracting things, even like mold, that would give me that quote unquote drama, that chaos, that abuse, that whatever. And I slowly started to rise above it, or whatever you want to call it. And I only had a few big things left. And one of them was that house and that landlord. And I realized just how big it was going to be to get rid of it. And what I mean by that is it was only going to be on me now. I had created so many opportunities for blame. When my stuff wasn't working, when my business wasn't succeeding, that was not on me. I got to blame all my exes who were crazy. I got to blame that I had a drug addiction. I got to blame that I had mental illness. I got to blame that I hurt my knee. I got to blame that my landlord was crazy. I got to blame the mold. I got to blame so many things because they were there. It's not my fault. Do you see how crazy my life is? I can't be successful when I am just trying to survive. That's hard, honey. Hard to survive out here. But that's bullshit when I was just not saying no to these stupid things. I made it seem like it was such a big deal to move when it wasn't. I found a house in a week. So the morning that I wanted to move, or that I was moving, the movers were coming, I was in that shower and I was crying until the water ran cold. I was literally clinging to the walls. I was clinging to this old version of myself. And I was like, once I leave here, I have no more excuses. All the responsibility, all the accountability, all of the success, everything that I want so badly is on me now. I can't blame anybody else. The addictions to chaos, the drama, it's all gone. And once I started doing that, once I even started noticing that when I felt sick, I got excited because I was like, oh, I don't have to work today because I'm sick. Like, that's so weird. It's self-sabotage. You're getting in your own way when I'm getting in my own way when I do that. So I guess I'm saying, like, if you've noticed any resemblance to that, if you identify with that story in any way, and it doesn't have to be with business, and it doesn't have to be with landlords, it doesn't have to be with exes or drugs or whatever, it can be with anything. But if you have a goal, if you have some sort of thing that makes you happy, and then you get kind of excited, or you keep attracting something in your life that makes you kind of veer in the way of continuing to make that decision over and over again, it has to be you. The thing that has to change is you. People always say like nothing changes until something changes, but like I think what they're not saying in that is the harsh thing, that the thing that has to change is you. It's not that something has to change, it's that you have to change. And what has to change isn't just your actions, it's your beliefs. Voodoo Brown, it's always been on you to take control of your life. Yeah. It's always been on me. It's always been on all of us. No one's doing any of this for you. And no one's going to change until they're ready to change. But you can also decide that you're ready to change at any single time. So this happiness game is not something to be won. It's an infinite game. It's not a finite game, just like Simon Sinek says. And I have been, as April was saying, like being on this healthy kind of journey, I've been shedding literal weight, literal connections in my life. And I used to just be like all about those circumstances and stuck in victim mode. And now I'm not. So I'm changing my beliefs, and now I'm all about doing stuff. And I can't tell you how much I wish I had not waited. And I want that for you. So what I believe this happiness game boils down to is belief plus persistence. And when I talk about persistence, I also mean it's coupled with action. Okay. So think about water boiling. I want you to think about like a pot of water boiling. And what do you need to do that? You need like a pot, you need water, and you need fire. Okay? And like imagine like it's on the stove. So you have to put it on there for you have to get the heat up to a certain amount of degrees. You have to have it on there for like a concentrated amount of time. And you have to have those supplies, right? Now, anything that you want to do to be happy kind of like needs, let me see how I want to say this. With the water boiling, you need it to stay on the flame, on the burner, for a certain amount of time until the water reaches a certain amount, and then it starts to boil with that change in the transformation, right? If you were to keep taking the pot of water every like couple seconds off the burner, it doesn't keep that heat going. It's starting to get cold every time, right? Like it's not keeping that consistency. You know what I mean? And you're like, or if you like keep turning the pilot light down, it's like, okay, like we're trying to boil, but you keep messing with the temperature, right? It needs that consistent heat at a concentrated space every time. Or let's say that you put the water in, you put it in the pot, and you turn the pilot light on, but then you put it on a different burner. You have all the supplies, but you're not doing it in like the same space, right? Or you don't put the water in, whatever. Like what I'm saying is that for anything that you want to do in order for you to be happy, you need to do the right steps, and you have to put it in the concentrated effort, and you have to have the right supplies. So if you aren't doing stuff in the right order, or you just keep moving shit, you keep stopping. Most of us, like, we know what to do, but we just keep either not starting, over preparing, procrastinating, or just like taking our foot off the gas and getting distracted most of the time, right? It's not about us like not having the water, not having the pot, not having the flame. It's that we just keep moving it off the burner every couple minutes or every year or something. But imagine if you had just kept boiling the water. You would have experienced the transformation of still water to bubbles. That's what I'm trying to say. So I believe everybody can be happy. I believe that. And happiness is different for everybody. And no, it's not maybe as simple as still water to bubbles. But what is bubbles for you? You know, you can't win the success game either, but I think Anne Hathaway's doing pretty fucking well. You know what I mean? So what is happiness for you? Can you decide what that looks like? Can you close your eyes and imagine what happy is for you? And then make a list of goals to boil yourself the way there. All right, I want to ask you guys, what are you thinking right now? What is happening? When you imagine happiness, what comes up for you? When you're thinking about this burner, what do you think that you are doing with the boiling? Like, are you usually like, do you not have all the supplies? Are you taking it off too early? Are you getting distracted? Are you walking out of the kitchen? Like, what's happening for you with the burner? And like, what do you think that you, and also, is it maybe that you believe, is it your beliefs? Because I mentioned that it's belief and persistence, right? So do you even believe that you're worthy to be in the kitchen? That is also the other thing. Did you even believe in yourself enough to get the inertia to go in the kitchen? Because that is another part of this aspect of this equation. It's hard to keep the big picture in view at the same time as working on short-term goals. It sometimes feels overwhelming. The pot boiling metaphor is a good one, though. Okay. So now we have a question about keeping the big picture in view at the same time as working on short-term goals. Okay, so now I want you to think about the big picture of what it looks like for you to be happy. So this is a good thing of like thinking about your future higher favorite self and doing that in like, I like to think about it in either like a year's time, 5 years time, or fairy godmother gives you a wand and you get to wake up tomorrow with everything fixed. Okay. So just close your eyes and imagine fairy godmother comes in, has a magic wand and gets to fix everything. And everything has changed. Everything is different. So that's what you get to, and then you write down everything that happens. What shifts for you? What shifts? And that's your big picture. Okay? That's your big picture. And then your short-term goals are the little minutia that you have to do to achieve the big picture. So let's break that down. For example, if your big picture is, oh, I'm imagining the fairy godmother is coming and she says that I live in a van now and I'm traveling the country, then your short-term goal would be, I need to sell my house. I need to, and then you're going to break that short-term goal down into everything that needs to happen before you sell your house. You need to box up all your stuff. You need to hire a realtor. You need to, right? So those are the short-term goals. And then how do you keep that big picture in view, in vision? That's where visual aids come in. That's where you put up something to like remind you every day. That's where sticky notes come in. That's where affirmations come in. That's where practices of like reminders on your phone. That's where planning for happiness comes in, which we actually have a free challenge coming out, coming around in January. So, you know, this is about like, what do you want to change? That's the big picture. Keeping it in view is about visual aids, reminders, and just like checking in with yourself. And then short-term goals are the logistic minutia bullshit that you have to do to get it. And that part's not sexy. Does anybody else have any other questions about how to make something happen? Or any other questions about the boiling water aspect scenario? And if you feel like you don't even belong in the kitchen, because, you know, I think most of us, either we have, let's see, you know, I want to mention that I think that, thank you, I will be working on figuring that out for myself. Yeah. And then, you know, everything short-term the logistic part, everything is Googleable. We live in such a beautiful time, and I'm so grateful for all the resources that are at our fingertips with the internet. So just practice gratitude for that as well. I also want to remind us that things aren't, most of the time, they're not unattainable for us. When we say that we can't, we are most of the time not being truthful about what that is. If you can't do something, what does that really mean? Most of the time, what we mean is that it's difficult for us. I can't do that. Can you not walk? Because that's a real thing. Can you not, like, a really good example is when people say, I can't sleep with the TV on. I just need it on to hear my own thoughts. So I can't hear my own thoughts, right? That's not true. I felt like that for many, many, many years, but it wasn't that I couldn't. It's that I didn't want to because it was difficult and I was scared. There's a difference between can't and difficult because you're scared. There are some things we can't do, but some of us really need to reconcile between the difference between a disability and a difficulty. I don't know who needs to hear that, but that's true. And not being able, like, even with my diagnoses on paper of mental illness, I'm saying that even with diagnoses, that when I was saying, like, I couldn't walk in a 360-degree circle, yes, I could. Yes, I could. There was nothing physically preventing me from doing that. I just didn't want to because it hurt my brain and it would give me a panic attack after. But I could still do it. I was choosing not to, right? And am I going to let that limit my life? I have tics that make it look different for me. And I thought that it makes it difficult to look at me. And maybe it does. And maybe some people aren't going to be able to handle it. But I didn't want to try stand-up comedy because of those things. And I thought that people were going to hate me. Am I going to let that stop me from doing something I want to do for 20 years? That doesn't even line up with how I feel about life. I have synesthesia, and every time I hear a fire alarm, I see flashing images of murdered people. Should I never leave the house? You know what I mean? Like, we have all of these things. It's not stopping me from doing stuff. I am stopping me from doing stuff. So most of the time we aren't willing to try things because we believe they're difficult. And guess what? A lot of things are difficult, but you are strong and you can do difficult things. And you will evolve and move to the next level every single time you dive into discomfort. Every single time. Discomfort is key in evolution. 100%. So I believe that sometimes for a lot of us, especially with our like neurodivergent minds, our brains are so powerful. Yes, they are. Sometimes we get in this place of like, you know how people think about dharma as kind of like you get this unique purpose in this world and you're born and you forget it and then you kind of need to remember it. Well, what if we are born and we have this unique ability to be ultimately powerful with joy, and then we become miserable and mediocre due to the circumstances of this physical earth, but then it becomes our job to reclaim our ultimate joyfulness. And I think we can do that through the embodiment of joy. So stuff that maybe felt good when we were a kid or starting to feel good now. And just like me putting on socks and slippers at the same time and sucking on a root beer lollipop with the window open, listening to a podcast from comedians and driving around finding fun roadside attractions and neon signs and finding a cool rainbow fence and sitting at my vanity and noticing the way that my grandmother's like bracelet dangles over my wrist and watching my boyfriend comb his like long Viking hair and he doesn't even know that I'm watching him, or watching the rainbow prisms dance around my kitchen in the morning. And every time I see a duck, I'm just like, duck. I think that that's maybe what the key to life is just having fun. Like forgetting who we are, becoming the unhappiest version of ourselves in order to remember our ultimate potential. And our ultimate potential is the power of joyfulness. And when we unlock our joy, we unlock everything else. And I believe that we all have that capacity, even if it's our weird, even if it feels weird and bizarre to the rest of the world, like the Addams family, like if what's making you happy is unhappiness for some reason, right? It does not need to make sense to everyone else. In fact, it probably won't. And the more it doesn't make sense to everybody else, the more of a iconic novel wonder you are. And when people say that you're standing in the way of yourself, because that's really the only thing standing in the way between you and happiness, they really just mean your mindset and behavior. So I want you to think of the things that you have tried to do, the things that keep coming up for you, the things that you keep complaining about, the things that you bring up year after year after year, the things that at the end of the year you're like, okay, I guess I didn't get to that again. I guess I'm going to work on that again. If you really want to work on it, decide. I promise you that if you really do, there's another rock to overturn. There is another creative solution. And if you want to work on it, you can do it. Because your desire and contrast and frustration are all showing you that you still care and something needs to be done about it for resolution in your life. And what you need to do is to outsource it. Ask for help, ask a coach, Google it. Other people have been through this before. This requires a creative solution and a different perspective. It requires an open mind from you. What you've been doing has maybe been consistent and resilient, but it hasn't given you the results that you've wanted. So now you need to do something different that's going to take trusting something outside of your own ideas. So you have to surrender to support. But maybe you've also been realizing that when you write these things down that you write down year after year after year that hasn't changed, and you're like, okay, what are all the things that I've tried to do to fix these things? And you're like, actually, the only things I've really tried are complaining and worrying and avoiding. I kind of just have been wishing for this to get different. That's okay. You know, now you just need a plan. You need inertia. You need to get into the kitchen to boil the water. So that's your first step, is to get in the kitchen. It's time to get moving and turn on the pilot light, right? And remember that if it doesn't work, there's always another solution. And go back to the first set of advice and just like outsource it. There's nothing like consistency, inertia, and alternative perspectives all at once to go where you need to get in no time. Okay, so your homework for today is to start playing the happiness game for keeps and to notice what doesn't feel good. What are you complaining about? What are you always bringing up to your friends? What are you always journaling about? If a fairy godmother could fix something for you overnight with a magic wand, what would you request? And then break it down into actionable steps. And use that consistency and persistency, like persistence. Like imagine that it's a fire and wait until the water boils. Okay, and I also pulled a card from my deck. And this is my Merriment Missions deck. There's 111 cards in here to embody, create, and spread joy out in the streets and sacred spaces and with special someones. There's 7 types of activities in here, and they're all really cute and rainbow. And they're rainbow on the back as well. And I drew a card for you in line with the happiness game. And it says, have an in the dark glow stick dance party. And this was me doing that the other night. So I hope that you'll go do that for yourself and have some fun, because this is all just about having fun, enjoying our lives. And the happiness game, like I said, is not something to be won. It's something to be felt. It's something to be enjoyed. It's not a finite game. It's an infinite game. And I hope that that's helpful for you. I hope that you found this valuable. I don't want you to forget to enter the giveaway. So if you want to take another screenshot, then go ahead and do that, and I'll pose again. And let me know if you have any more questions here. We've got a couple more minutes and we can answer some more Q&A. And I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. But thank you so much for coming to our first Merriment Monday live. This is great. I'm really excited to be on every Monday live at 12 p.m. noon Eastern time. And I hope you enjoyed all of the little segments, and you can think about all of the magical merriment moments that you're experiencing during the week and get excited to bring them here. You can start looking for good news that you see out in your life, and get excited about the next week's topic. And next week's topic is good news. So it's all very, very, meta. And, we can also, you can also look forward to the social media topics that I share every week aligning up with this week's topic. So we're actually kind of catching up weirdly this week. So last week's social media was all about the happiness game. So you can actually go check it out and on my Instagram and TikTok and all of that. So yeah, but I'm at Merriment Maker everywhere, and I hope that you enjoyed that. And please don't forget to enter the giveaway for a chance to win, and tag me at Merriment Maker on social media. And you can find more information about my programs and offerings in the caption below. Thank you so much. I look forward to getting updates on your homework next week, and I will let you guys know who won the giveaway. Thank you so much. Remember, you have to feel good to do good. I'll see you next week.